Good afternoon. Dwayne here, Dry Creek Wrangler School. Got a nice, hot, sunny day finally. I think we're supposed to get more rain in tomorrow. It's been an extremely wet spring, and not doing this in the tack shed because the tack shed's kind of hot and it's also full of flies. So we come out here under a tree and the breeze is keeping the flies away, and we're going to see if we can't make a video. I want to talk about a horse subject today. I want to talk about horses pulling back. I got to thinking this week, and it's something that I'm constantly on the alert about when I have the students out and I have horses. I have students bring in their horses. It's one of those things that I am constantly alert for. And there's a lot that goes into it, and you don't see a whole lot about it. I haven't on YouTube and on the internet about dealing with it, and it can be a very destructive, very dangerous situation. And so I just kind of want to cover that subject today. Now, for those who are not in the horse world, pulling back means you take a horse, he's got a halter on, or heaven forbid you're tying your horse with the reins. Hopefully he's got a halter on, and you tie him up either to a hitching post, to a post, to whatever, and they'll come back and they'll hit the end of that lead rope, and then they'll just panic, and they'll pull back really hard, and they'll start thrashing around. I've seen them hit the ground. I've seen them pop that lead rope and flip over backwards and hit the ground. I've had them break ribs of mine, break my ribs. It can really be a dangerous situation, and so the best thing. Well, let me say this up front: if you're somewhere and all of a sudden the horse starts pulling back, what do? Let's just get that out of the way first. What do? Nothing. You get the heck out of there. You let them pull back. Either they're going to snap the lead rope or snap the halter, especially if you're using halter with hardware, with the brass rings or snaps. They're going to break something and then get free, or eventually they're going to quit. Okay? But when you have an 800 to 1,200 pound animal that's in full panic mode and they've completely shut their brain off and they're thrashing around, you got to understand the horses by nature, they're a panic mode animal. They are a claustrophobic animal. And so when they get in that mode, you're not going to go in and pet them and smooth them and soothe them down. You're not going to get their attention and make them stop. And you're certainly not going to go in there and grab the tail of that slip knot and pop it and get them loose. You're going to get hurt. Okay? So unless there's not a life-threatening situation, just step back and let them work it out. Okay? Now, if they're in a crowd of horses, if they're in a situation where it is a life-threatening situation, that's why a real horseman always carries a knife that's easy to get to and it is sharp. And if you can safely get around on the other side of the hitching post and go in there and slash that lead rope or something, that's just if somebody else is in danger, if things are really getting bad. That's why we recommend everybody that comes to school, you should always be carrying a knife. And it's best to have a belt knife or a clip knife that you can get to really fast in case of a situation like that. But on most situations, most of the time that happens, you just step back. Okay, you just step back. So let's start with preventing it. Okay. You want to prevent a horse from ever getting that habit in the first place. That's the best place to start. That's the best route to take. Now, I myself, when I'm working with young horses, I never tie a young horse. I don't tie them. Okay? A horse can't learn to pull back if they've never been tied. And so I've started colts in the past and run them all the way up. And I don't tie them to saddle them. I don't tie them to put a halter on or put a headstall on. When I'm done riding, I don't tie them to unsaddle them. I don't tie them at all. If we're riding and we stop to take a break, I just get down and I just hold on to it, and I don't tie them. And then, there will come a time with that horse will take their first really long, tiring ride. And they will come back and they will be tired. And their head will be down and they'll just be moving along. And when you come to that situation, when you get to that point in a new horse and a fresh horse, tie them up. What you've done is, again, what we teach here, and my approach is always the mind and their outlook and their view on things. And so if a horse is looking for the opportunity to just stand, if he's looking for the opportunity to rest, if being there is a good thing and you tie him up, then his first introduction to being tied is a positive thing. It's not a case of physical, is he so physically tired he's not going to pull back? Forget the physical, all right? 99% of our screw-ups in the horse world is because we're trying to do the physical, and we don't go with the mind. And you want to get their mind to the point that being tied up means I get to stand here, I don't have to walk anymore. So therefore, my viewpoint of being tied up is a positive thing. Okay? That's how we approach that. Now, there are some basic rules for tying up a horse. You never tie a horse to anything that they can pull loose if they throw their full weight behind it. And a horse can pull loose a lot. So now if you're out on the trail and you tie your horse to a tree or to a tree limb, you got to make sure that's not a standing dead sapling about that big that can just be pulled over. All right. If they spook and they jump back and they snatch that thing out of the ground, now all of a sudden they've got this club coming towards them. So they pull back to get away from that club, and it's chasing them down the trail. And now you've got a full-on bad old deal right there. Same thing, you tie them to a tree limb, something spooks them, they pull back, they snap that tree limb off, and it comes towards them, and so the faster they get away, the faster it chases them. You never tie a horse to a corral panel. You never tie them to a round pin panel. These prefert if they can pull it, you don't tie them to it. I've got a very adamant rule around here. You never tie a horse to a horse trailer that's not hooked to a truck. Now, I've got a standard 16-foot bumper pull steel horse trailer down there. I've got some horses on this place that are big enough, if they spooked and backed up, they could pull that trailer with them if it wasn't hooked up to a truck. And so when they pull up, it comes after them. So you never do that, okay? These are situations that it's prevention, okay? You work more with prevention. Every time you tie your horse, you ask yourself, what will happen if something spooks my horse and he pulls back? What's going to happen? So then you look for those situations and you prevent those situations from happening. You tie a horse so that when they're standing there, they can't get their head low enough to eat grass. They're where they are, they get comfortable, but they're right there, and they learn, this is where I stand, this is where I'm resting, and this is where it's good. But pulling back is dangerous, and it's a habit. It can become a habit that is extremely, extremely hard to break in a horse. Now, I've headed it off in a couple of horses. I wouldn't say I broke them of it. I've had some horses that were mature horses that just all of a sudden out of the blue just started pulling back. But I've been around long enough to know that it wasn't just that blind panic. And it didn't have that super violent life or death feel to it. You guys has been on here for a while. You remember Tank from school last year. Tank started it. He started pulling back. So I had a hitching post in the ground that I had made out of 8-inch posts, and I had really lagged them in tight and everything. It wasn't coming out. And so he just started doing it. So I just stepped back one day. He pulled back, and he's going like this and feet up in the air, and he hit the ground. Somebody came up to do something, and he just did it again. And he didn't have that whites in his eyes, that glazed look. He was just like, you know what? I'm just going to fight this. I don't want to do this today. So I went in the tack room, and I got my slicker, my long oilskin raincoat, and I came out and I unrolled it. And he's tied to the hitching post right here. So I walk up to the end of the hitching post, and I pop that slicker out, like Mama's folding sheets, and he pops those sheets out. I popped that. I didn't do it at him. Okay, I didn't do it at him. I just did it right here. I ignored him, and I popped that slicker out. Well, he jumped and pulled back and hit the end of that. And I just stood there. I just do what you're going to do. That's up to you, whatever you're going to do. So 3 or 4 seconds, and he stopped, and he came forward. I went over and petted him, said, what was that all about, Buckethead? Then I came back over and popped that slicker again, and he did it again, but it was only about with half as much energy. And when he stopped and came back and took a step forward, I went over and scratched him on the shoulder. And I'm like, how'd that work out for you? And then I did it again, and he just stood there. And so then I did it again, and he just stood there. And he never even offered again. Okay? So you can, if you catch it in time and you set it up right, we only use rope halters with hand-tied lead ropes. We don't use web halters. We don't use any halters with any hardware or any snaps. The halters are all one single piece of rope that are tied to make the halter. They're not going to break it. Now, I've seen one, in all the years I've been doing this, I've seen one rope halter break. And so it could have had a weak spot in it. It could have been old and frayed. I saw one break one time. But as a rule, they're not going to break it. And when they start breaking them, I've seen them set back. I've been working on places that use the web halters with the big brass snap lead rope. And I've seen horses learn just like that. And I've seen them set back and break that snap. And I've seen someone go get another lead rope, snap it in the halter, tie them up, and they just watched them walk away, threw themselves back against the horse good and broke that. I watched the horse do that to 3 one day, right in a row. Pop, pop, pop. They learn to do that. You teach them to do that. You buy these halters that have the rings or the D-rings, that are sewn in here. That's where it's going to break. And so that's what will help teach the horse to do that, and it will become a habit, and they'll get figured out. I don't want to stand here, and so I can get away with this. Now, so we only use rope halters, and they can't break them. And so you get a horse that kind of takes that notion the first time or the second time, and usually they're like, there's no value to this. I accomplished nothing. I did all this exertion. I did all this work, and I didn't accomplish anything. And usually, a semi-intelligent horse, they'll quit. They won't do that anymore. And I mentioned this when we first started. A cardinal rule is you do not tie your horse up by the reins. I don't care if you're using a slobber straps with a macate. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. It is still, and it looks like a nice lead rope off that left side. That is not a lead rope, and it's still tied to the ring. That's the bit in their mouth, and not only are you going to break your head stalls and you're going to break your gear, but you're going to wind up hurting their mouth and hurting their teeth. Okay. Now if you may see a video, like we're doing a video sometimes, you may see my horse stand there and it looks like, oh my goodness, Boone is tied up by the reins. No, he is not. Now, I'll take some horses that have learned, and they're good, steady horses, and they know to stand there, and I'll take that rein and I'll drape it over the top of something. But if the horse moves off, the rein's just coming off. They are not tied, okay? And so you don't do that. But the best thing to do to keep a horse on the pulling back with a horse is, number one, set up the situation they don't pull back. And number two, if they insist on pulling back, get out of the way and let them. Now, we could say that works in relationships too. All right? The best way to not have your spouse or your girlfriend, boyfriend not pull back away from you is don't create a situation that's going to have them pull back. But just like horses, some people pull back, and it could be a sibling, it could be a parent, it could be what used to be a friend. No matter what you do, they're going to pull back anyhow. Well, Dwayne, what do I do if I've done everything I can to set the situation up so they don't pull back? Let them pull back. Just let them. Because what you're going to do, you step in there, and if they insist on pulling back, pulling away, you step in there to try to control the situation so they don't, you're going to get smashed. All right? Again, broken ribs don't hurt as bad as a broken heart. When they want to pull away, you just got to let them pull away. All right? Now, sometimes they pull away because we set up a bad situation. But do all that you can do. And when you've done all you can do and hell still comes to breakfast, let it finish out, then pick up the pieces, learn from it, and start all over again. Okay? All right. But horsemanship is a thinking man's game, and you can never stop thinking. You're always paying attention. All right? It may not be your horse that pulls back, but if you're out riding with other people, their horse might. Always act like their horse might pull back. Always act like your horse might pull back. And then if they do pull back, you're ready for it. Okay? So what do we got here? We have a Alec Bradley Tempest Natural. Cigarplace.biz sent me a pack of these this week. I'd never had them before. They're a pretty good cigar. And so they kind of fall in between my, my Charter Oak Connecticut Shades, which are really mild, and but then they're not as dark and rich and strong as my Partagas Black Labels, which I like to keep this palette range of cigar in my humidor because sometimes I don't want something super mild, but I'm not quite ready for that smack in the back of the head, and you just kind of want something in the middle there. And this is a good cigar. I like this. So I want to give a shout out to cigarplace.biz. If you're looking for an online place, you don't have a brick and mortar nearby, and you need some place to order cigars. My son Jesse, he texted me the other day. He's one packing up in the mountains in Idaho. He said, "Hey, you got a place where you can get discount for cigars?" And I said, "I don't think I get discounts." I said, but these guys they've got a good sale going on, and Jesse don't smoke cigars as much as I do. He may now. So I asked him a few days later. I said, "You get cigars?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I might have went overboard." And I said, "Oh yeah?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I got on there and they had some on sale that I really liked, so I put them in my cart. And I found some more that were on sale, and I knew I liked them, so I put them in my cart. Then I found some more that were on sale, and I knew I liked them, so I put them in my cart. And then he said, I found a bunch more, and I wound up ordering 275 cigars. I said, man. And he's like, "Now I don't have a humidor or anything." And so I'll give you just a quick cigar tip on that. You can go to Walmart and buy a cooler, like an igloo cooler, just an ice chest, just the cheap red with the white lids and whatever, and to get you some Bovita packs and put your cigars in them, throw the Bovita packs in there, and that's a pretty good get by humidor for a while. So, but anyhow, I want to thank Shane for sending these to me, and want to again let you guys know we have the schedule up for school next year, and so people are already calling, already booking, and so we just want to encourage you to check that out if you're thinking about coming next year. Also, we're making a little bit of changes. The school will have the school, all right, but also we've got more people calling and like setting aside a week for a family. with young kids and stuff, and they want the experience and they want to do some riding, but they don't want the full school. We're going to make that's available next year as well. All right. So if you like these folks, they've watched the videos, they like the whole ambiance of the videos and what we're saying and putting out here, and they want a vacation out west with some horses and home cooked meals and historic house, but they're not going in wrangling and they don't want the school, and so we've opened that up too. All right, so there's options, and so get on Dry Creek Wranglers plural.com. There's a phone number on there. Call Mama and talk to Mama, and she'll be happy to set you up and take care of you. Okay? Other than that, we'll wish you guys all the best, and we'll catch you next time.